This is part of the summer series of Saints and Sermons about women, by women, brought to you by the Cathedral of the Incarnation in Baltimore, Maryland. Our preacher is Canon Kate Riley.
Let the heavens rejoice, and let the earth be glad. Let the sea thunder, and all that is in it. Let the field be joyful, and all that there is. Amen. Please be seated. Good morning, Cathedral. Now, friends, we just had a holiday. It's a good day. Let's try that again. Good morning, Cathedral. Good morning. Thank you. As mentioned, my name is Kate Riley, and I serve as your canon for youth and young adult ministry. What that roughly translates to is that I serve on the bishop's staff and all 100 beautiful churches in our diocese, ranging all the way from Western Maryland to Calvert County and up to Northern Hartford County. Most often, I am providing resources for formation like curriculums, activity planning, fun games to play. I assist our teenage peer ministry teams in leading retreats, planning service opportunities, and chaplaining at our summer camps with the Claggett Center. I like to think that my job is really to help raise up our young people into great humans, good leaders, and at least okay-ish Episcopalians. Thanks for laughing, Rob. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to preach during this amazing summer series on women in ministry. Thank you again for the invitation, Rob. Today, our focus is on Eva Lee Matthews. She is most well known for being co-founder of the Community of the Transfiguration in Ohio. Born in 1862, her father was a Union officer during the Civil War and later served as a Supreme Court justice. Being a servant leader was in her biology, it would seem. She was well educated, though she never technically obtained a college degree, and as a young adult, she took a pilgrimage to Palestine and to England. Walking the streets where Jesus had been and seeing the Holy Land firsthand had changed her forever. In England, she saw the resurgence of holy orders of both nuns and brothers and what they were doing to help care for the less fortunate. This was a large part of the population at the time due to the boom of industry that brought in a ton of people from farmlands and the countryside to cram into these tiny cities to work long hours in dangerous places and live very compactly. Cities were very often not hygienic at all, and the children were really sick and often working at a young age and therefore uneducated. This deeply disturbed Sister Eva Lee. Her experiences overseas inspired her to seek the face of God in those of her community at home. Upon her return to Cincinnati, she helped to start an order of sisters, the Community of the Transfiguration. Their mission was to serve the needs of the Episcopal Church and the wider community through prayer, worship, and social outreach. The sisters often worked through education, hospitals, and homeless shelters. They all took a vow of poverty, chastity, obedience, and living a life of simplicity and service. The most notable and long-reaching achievement for the community was the founding and running of the Bethany School, a school for underprivileged children. It gave quality education mostly to young women, and is still open today. Sister Eva Lee remained head of the order until her death in 1928. Her legacy is one of servanthood and dedication, a woman in ministry that is an example to all of us. As a youth minister myself for over a decade, I have always preached about the importance of intentional Christian community, much like the Sisterhood of the Transfiguration. Having served in my childhood church, Emmanuel Episcopal in Allegheny County, every single Sunday while growing up, to living my year in a service corps down the street at St. Michael's and All Angels, and now specializing in community creation for retreats, camps, and pilgrimages. You could really say it's my life's passion. And I know that my passion for it comes from firsthand experience at all levels. When my father had to move us across the country from Dallas, Texas, out to itty-bitty Western Maryland, all post-divorce, the church was there to help him figure out how to raise two rambunctious teenagers by himself. They were there for us week after week, year after year, and now decade after decade, a blessing that has never wavered in my life. When I was in an absolute panic at the age of 21, not knowing where I wanted to go in life, what I wanted to do, and feeling like I just didn't have time, I could figure it out. God was calling me to serve here in Baltimore with the Episcopal Service Corps. For 11 months, I lived in intentional Christian community with 10 complete strangers. It does sound like a bad reality TV show, I know. And living in that community and being in a whole new place, going from Western Maryland with a population of 5 people to Baltimore City with a population of what felt like 5 million, it was all very terrifying. But with Christ at the center of it all, our household transformed ourselves and made a community that lasted for several years, even through fights over who's going to do the dishes and who drank the last of the coffee. And now I am blessed to help build up communities of young people and the young at heart across this diocese. It can feel kind of odd from time to time to simultaneously belong to 100+ communities and yet not really having one of my own, since most Sundays I often travel to visit with our congregations. However, I know that no matter what part of the state or in, or honestly at this point, the country I go, I can find someone connected to my community. And that is a beautiful thing. Creating a meaningful place with people of all backgrounds can be difficult. There are personality clashes, introverts versus extroverts, morning people versus night owls, liberals versus conservatives. There are habits that may be comforting to you and a huge annoyance to others. Luckily, my husband left, so I can tell you that he leaves every single light on in the house. But I apparently also leave open every single cabinet door, so we're making it work. A myriad of things that should keep us from finding any sense of peace in our community. I just spent a week with Mulberry middle schoolers at the Claggett Center, and I can tell you honestly, having had a week to reflect on it, that it was hard to find any sense of peace. In our proposed community, there was a range of 5th grade students to 8th grade students, a few high schoolers as our junior staff, and a core group of 20-somethings serving as senior staff for the whole summer, and a smattering of older adults for medical administration and chaplaining needs. On paper, there was no reason for us to work as a loving and uplifting community. Middle schoolers are my favorite, but they're also really hard. Even on their best days, they have an enormous amount of change in their life. Their physical bodies are growing and changing and getting smellier. Their minds and their emotions are growing and becoming even more abstract. Their concept of the world is changing with how much news they hear or talking with their adults in their lives. And their responsibilities are growing and becoming more difficult task by task. And they have access to so much more information with the addition of supercomputers in their pockets. 20-somethings are trying to figure out what they are supposed to be doing for the rest of their lives, while also being more and more plugged into global politics, the state of the economy, and what's going on in their deep family matters. And the grown-ups? Well, we get to have all the things on our plates and try to mentor and care for the younger ones. It's a lot. And then you throw in 90-degree weather, 9,000% humidity, bugs, and not enough sleep, you are asking for no sense of peace. As my co-chaplain and I, who have been going to camp and serving as chaplains for many years, were planning out what we should talk about during the week, we figured team building, forgiveness, acceptance, those things are always crucial when bringing people together. We worked in stories and characters from the Bible to help inspire, and fun activities to really solidify those lessons, and songs to keep the mood high and the energy good. We planned everything to a T in hopes of making a flawless week of love, acceptance, and hugs. And that didn't work. There were still kids who had beef with one another, kids who could just not be nice to one another, no matter how many conversations we had about growing and maturity, no matter how many times we said, well, you go play on this ball course and you go do this craft and just take time from each other. A couple of campers really just wanted to go home where their air conditioning was. Despite the fun on the ropes course, the amazing time of throwing balls in the pool, and the wonderful, intricate crafts that taught new skills. Every day we were reminding them in the morning and in the evening in chapel that this community we were building only lasted for a week, and we all have to work together to make it something special. And some of them would just not play ball. We were feeling a little defeated by Tuesday afternoon, which doesn't seem like a lot of time, but it was. Sarah and I continued to rack our brains about how we could inspire, what we could do, where we were going, just anything that would help these middle schoolers get together. And I have to tell you with my whole heart, thank God for s'mores. If we could not bring them together during small group activities, large water balloon fights, or any kind of meaningful conversation, it was going to have to be over chocolate and roasted marshmallows. This was an unexpected communion of good news. At this campfire, we told the story of Moses and the burning bush, how he was called despite not feeling ready or able, being extremely uncomfortable in his own skin and feeling like he had no real place to be. My co-chaplain and I took off our shoes, which if you've ever been to Claggett is a big no-no, around the fire, and we shared our own vulnerability as adults. We told our call stories that involved pain, indecision, and really listening for where God was in all of it. That is what really melded our community together for the week. Being vulnerable together was what made those middle schoolers finally feel safe enough to breathe and to live in to Claggett. Now, the rest of the week was not perfect by any means, but you could see them trying to overcome the things that were keeping them apart before. Much like our gospel story today, the woman giving her oil to Jesus, or Eva Lee gathering women to serve the less fortunate, we have to give everything to God. Intentional community is about being vulnerable. It's about asking for help, to be of service when people ask for help, and to always share the joy that is around us. It takes everything we have all of the time. But more importantly, we have to be willing to give of ourselves to feel that deeper connection that God created us to have with one another. I am so grateful for communities like the Cathedral who understand the importance of these weekly gatherings, even when it's 94 degrees outside. Of pilgrimages, both near and far, to New York City or to Puerto Rico. Of being in community through the hard, difficult times and in the good, joyous times. I know the next year may look a little frightening or a little different with all of the political changes that are coming and with the climate change that continues to beat us in the face. But I honestly look forward to seeing what God has in store for all of us in this next year. And I hope there are even more s'mores for us all to share along the way with one another at the end of this community and the community at large. In the name of our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, amen.